Hello and welcome to this module on corporate transactions. In this module, we'll begin with a quick introduction to what we mean by corporate transactions and then look more closely at mergers and acquisitions, then divestitures, and finally alliances and contracts. And finally, we will look at these corporate transactions from a more holistic view as a portfolio within the company rather than as piecemeal events. To understand the role of corporate transactions, let's begin by revisiting our definition of corporate strategy as the pursuit of competitive advantage through the configuration and coordination of a company's multi-business activities. So naturally, transactions that change the set of businesses managed by the company are central to our understanding of corporate strategy. More specifically, corporate transactions involve actions with other entities that change or manage the scope of the firm. So this includes transactions that add to the scope of the firm, like mergers and acquisitions, and transactions that decrease the scope of the firm, such as divestitures through sale, carve-outs, or spin-outs. Also, it includes transactions with other firms through contracts and alliances, which do not technically expand the scope of the company, but may extend its reach and ability in ways that are similar to what an increase in scope would do. Once you see that the alternative to owning another business might be to form an alliance or outsourcing relationship with the other business, then it is only natural to include the management of such relationships under corporate transactions. Let me also highlight that corporate transactions need not be the only way in which firms change the corporate scope. For example, companies can grow new businesses organically from within or exit businesses by redeploying the assets and resources from that business. Corporate transactions provide an alternative, less incremental way by which companies can change or manage its corporate scope. One interesting aspect of these transactions is that they always, by definition, involve another firm. So there's value in viewing these transactions from both perspectives and not just as a unilateral action by one company. Before we move on, I'd like to introduce you to a few resources on corporate transactions, in case you would like to get better acquainted with this fascinating topic. First, consider reading the annual BCG M&A report, which provides analysis and research not only on M&As but also on divestitures. If you read both the current year's report and a few back issues, you'll be well rewarded with what you learn. A second source is IMAA, or the Institute for Mergers, Acquisitions and Alliances, which has useful statistics on a webpage linked here, where you can look at some M&A trends and graphs. You can learn, for example, that M&A activity tends to peak right around stock market peaks. Despite the name, the data on IMAA's website only covers mergers. There's not very much on alliances. And finally, there's good data that one can buy from Thomson ONE, or what used to be called Securities Data Corporation, or SDC. You will often see this data source, Thomson ONE or SDC, they're the same thing, cited in statistical analyses of M&As, divestitures, and alliances. These data are quite comprehensive on M&A and divestitures, but not so on alliances. But then no data source is comprehensive on alliances. I will state for the record that I have no affiliation with any of these organizations. I'm not endorsing any of them. These resources are simply ones that I have found useful, and I even draw on some of them in this lecture video.